Hey, welcome to the Closing Beat, everybody. Happy Thursday. How you doing today? Hope you're having a good day here. This is a quick show that we do. It's called the Closing Beat, trying to keep them a little shorter these days. It's a stock market update show. If you're joining us for the first time, we're financial advisors here. Selfishly, this is marketing. We hope you keep us in mind here at Jazz Wealth. We're just in tune with the markets. We're one of those financial advisors. We don't just invest for you and then go play golf. We want to invest for you. We love managing our own funds. They're all expense-free right on our website there. And we like to focus on your dough, right? We like to make sure that your financial background is strong, your investment background is strong, everything going forward is moving in unison so that you can get to where you want to be. And one of the ways we do it is a class every Thursday for our customers where the topics change. You can actually go on our website and see the different events there. Tonight's class is actually we call it a bit of an audible here, changing things up a little bit. We're going to focus on Nest Egg, which is a financial planning software that we use with our customers here to make sure everything is dialed in. We're going to focus on the cash flows today. Life revolves around cash flows, right? So we want to make sure you know how to see those cash flows and how your different decisions in life are adjusting the cash flows overall there. So we'll be sure to cover that. That starts tonight. You should already have the email invite and a special little bonus. Automatically, if you're in the dojo, it should just kick out live, right? It should just start playing right away. You should get an email ahead of time letting you know when we do go live, but we're just testing some things out here today. I don't know if it's going to work exactly right. We're also playing a game. It's called Guess the Dow. Go to the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. You can guess the Dow if you're the closest without going over, even after what's happened here the past couple of days. We'll send you $100. It's a gift card. If you're one of our customers, we'll credit your account. So have some fun with that. There's no marketing or strings attached in there. One day I'll share with you why we actually do it, right? And it's not marketing, but there's a really sneaky reason why we're doing the Guess the Dow. Has nothing to do with marketing, customer generation, selling leads, or anything like that. We actually don't share any information. We delete it the second the game is over. But really selfish reason there. Maybe if you guys are interested, I'll share with you one day. Let's talk about the stock market here today. You got the Dow higher by 99, S&P added 7, the NASDAQ actually I think finished positive. We got a little bit late to the data there. That's probably just a touch aftermarket data. I think it did finish in the positive. So generally speaking, a positive day, however, very, very little, right? Yesterday we were down a lot. Is it a little gain today? It doesn't really move the needle. The world's focused on the yield curve. Oh my gosh, the yield curve is inverted. We covered that yesterday in detail, so you know what all of that means. Today, we were not inverted. The 2 to 10 stayed normal by about 2 basis points there, I believe. So no inversion today. We just touched under there yesterday and then came back positive there. Now, I want to share something interesting with you. This is not my data, by the way, but I happen to see this and just kind of thought this was cool. So if I can get this to pop back up, I want to share something with you because I've been telling people, hey, if you've been investing in your 401k, I could use this as a sales pitch. I just choose not to. I don't think it's very fair, right? But if you've been investing in your 401k and you find that you haven't made any money in the last year, and you blame the 401k company or your IRA, wherever you're at, and you find out nothing's going on here. Why have I not made any money? Let's take a look at something. I saw this on Bloomberg. Yesterday, the S&P closed, the closing price was 2840.6. 2840.6. August 14th. If we were to go back to last August 14th, I've got to change this real quick. Bear with me. I'm going to sneak in here. We're going to go to 2 years so that I can go back that far and watch what happens here. If I go back to last August 14th, right there, hover over it, the closing price was 2839.96, essentially 2840, meaning from August 14th, 2018 to August 14th, 2019, the same. Zero growth. But what happened? Right? We had a little blip up, a massive 20% correction, a massive 20+% recovery, all to finish a full year's time period right where you started. So again, 2839.96, rounded up, just call it 2840. Over here, yesterday, the exact same day, 1 year later, 2840. So if you're looking at your 401k, things like that, and you're like, hey, why hasn't anything happened, right? I'm investing, I'm an index fund investor, I'm not trying to beat the market, I'm not trying to do any worse or whatever, I'm not conservative. I just did one of these S&P index funds because I read a book and it told me that's what you did. As of yesterday, if you invested on August 14th, 2018, you're flat. You made zero money. And so because of that, right? If the markets continue this sort of, not really accomplishing anything, we either A, have to fine tune your investments, get you a little more yield in there, maybe speed you up a little bit, and we'll talk about that with our customers a lot. Or B, we let that do its thing. It'll be fine in the long run. Everything will be just fine. But we got to go work on your personal finances now. Let's grow that side of your financial equation. And so I'm going to be spending a lot more time on that with our customers here. Now, I want to go in here real quick. I want to share one more thing with you. If you look at the futures market, S&P overnight, if you look at, I don't do this often, but this is really sort of interesting. Wild night overnight for the futures market, right? So about 3, 4 o'clock in the morning Eastern time, everything's good, we're trending higher, and then bam, we fall down. Now that doesn't maybe look like a whole lot, but that's a huge drop. That's 40 points in the S&P 500 or 400 points in the Dow. All of a sudden we fall because China comes out and says, you know what? We are going to start working on countermeasures to your tariffs, right? Pretty angry, right? Chinese media came out sort of aggressive and tough and everything. Then what happened here as we get into the morning, somebody told them to stop or do something. China comes out and says, hey, actually, we'd like to meet in the middle. Their words, not mine. They said, we'd like to meet the U.S. in the middle, try to come to a deal. So they went from, hey, we're going to fight back real hard to, could we just meet somewhere in the middle, get together over a cup of coffee or something and figure this trade war thing out? Our markets started rallying. Everything was looking good. Then old President Trump takes to Twitter and says, nope, we're going to make a deal on our terms. We are not going to make a deal in the middle. And what happened? The markets start to fall again. So I just thought this was interesting because if you look at the Dow, we lost 800 points yesterday. That's the headline number. Everybody gets excited. Yay, we lost 800 points. How scary. But in general, we lost another 400 overnight, 1,200 points in 2 days. That actually happened, not theory. This actually happened in real life. And then we rallied over 400 points. And that's why the title of today's closing beat is we're trading in a very wild range there. All right, so let's move on here and get through some of this other stuff. We look at, I'm going to go back to daily chart here so you guys can see. There you go. If we're focused in on the Dow, here I've just sort of put the 10% line. From highs to lows, where does the Dow fall 10%? That's going to be right here. Coincidentally, that happens to be right at the prior low. So you go, okay, we have 10%, which is known as a support area. We also have prior support in that area. That gives you a reason to think, well, if we fell down there, wouldn't be such a big deal, right? That'd be totally okay with me. So we're going to keep focusing on that area, try to highlight that a little bit here as we go so you guys can see really it's not that big of a drop, but in general, we have fallen that 10%, or we're working on falling the 10% there. If you look at the S&P 500, we've done the exact same thing here. I posted this yesterday. We've got this support down in here. We've got a 10% drop illustrated by this big black line. I'm going to adjust that for you. All in all, today was positive, but still it's like, you know, really? Like we're not really accomplishing anything in general. And 10% here on the NASDAQ puts you at the 200-day moving average, which also happens to be a little price support there as well. So that's it for the market commentary. Let's look at the bonds. 10-year treasuries hit new highs today. The yields fell even lower. 30-year goes back under 2%. So under 2% for the 30-year note there, 30-year bond, breaking the new highs there. Price is just unbelievably strong there. Obviously, we've been talking about it in the short term. You get just, that's incredible, man. That is incredible. If we look at the Dow today, you got all of the real support for the Dow came because of Walmart. Walmart reported earnings. Everything looked really good with them. And, you know, they say as Walmart goes, so does the rest of the world and all that stuff. Well, Walmart has positive earnings, positive growth. They raised their guidance going forward. So Walmart, one of the bigger, well, it was the biggest gainer in the Dow, but one of the big supporters there in the Dow as well. On the downside, though, unfortunately, you have Cisco. Whoa, what a drop there on Cisco. Lost 8.5%. Disappointing earnings. They lowered their guidance overall. Oh boy, just not real good for Cisco there. And I wanted to point out Pfizer. So Pfizer finished positive today, showing a little relative strength. When the market was negative today, Pfizer managed to hang in with a positive gain. I know a lot of you are looking at Pfizer and you're like, could I buy that? I mean, could I get a little oversold bounce there? I don't know. Is that something that's possible? Well, here's a little hint, right? Not that I'm telling you what to do, but a little hint from Pfizer showing that relative strength. So remember Dollar Tree from the other day, showing you relative strength early, and then the next couple days you get that excitement there. So Pfizer kind of interesting there if you happen to be paying attention. If you look at the NASDAQ 100, you got the same 10% pullback's going to happen right back in here at the 200-day moving average. So whether you look at the NASDAQ Composite, NASDAQ 100, totally up to you. And then, of course, we talked about the S&P 500. Hasn't pulled back 10% or more all year long. That typically happens once in a 1-year time period, and we just haven't had it yet. So are we working on that now? We're down about 6%, maybe, yeah, basically 6% off the highs here. If we pull back down 10%, now you know where we're headed to. All right, let's go over to the individual sectors here. XLE, this is your energy sector, still remains the most oversold sector on a week-over-week basis. It's just not good, right? Energy-related stocks, I've been pointing them out every day, making the new 52-week lows. I could go through a whole bunch of them again today, but it remains the most oversold area. For those of you that like finding oversold sectors of the market and maybe finding a way to participate, I don't know, that's up to you to decide there, but that remains the most oversold sector. The basic materials remains the biggest week-over-week mover, meaning so far since last week, it has had the biggest move to the downside sector-wise. Again, unfortunately, it's to the downside, so that's not that great. Financials is the second biggest mover week over week and finds itself at that 10% pullback. We drew that line there yesterday just to show you and to see today how it's acting as a little support. We came right smack into that 10% area and people said, hey, that's psychological. I got a 10% discount. If I got a 10% discount on anything, I wouldn't go buy a ton of it, but I would say, all right, 10%. I got a little bit of a sale there. That's pretty exciting. And so you saw that today, that little support from the financials sector there. Consumer staples got a little bit of support today, added 1.5%. That's basically all because of Walmart. Walmart's not the biggest player in the consumer staples sector. However, it makes up about 8%. So when Walmart does really well, it's a good thing for them. Semiconductors, we've been talking about this one here, a little bit of chop back and forth in the last couple weeks. It sort of feels like it wants to come down to this trend line. I don't know how you guys feel about semiconductors, but it sort of feels like no one is really interested in participating until they have a very obvious support area. You know what I mean? We've kind of highlighted that support in the past, probably not much reason to keep going through that. But if that happens, let's see, let me put it back up there for you. If that happens, you basically know if you're participating, you got about another 3% to the downside to make those technical traders happy. If it could coincide with some kind of trade issue or memory surplus, which is not going to happen, but if for some reason it could coincide with some good news, well, that would help the technical traders want to participate in that as well. Crude oil. So crude oil, we've been talking about this being a very technical area here. So if you're an oil player, you're looking in this space, you're trying to find stocks you're interested in, we talked about this moving back up into a known resistance area. Whether you believe it or not, it is an effective area that's currently people are paying attention to. And we said, you know what, it's not going to do anything until it breaks above this downtrend line here. So real simply, oil doesn't really have any monster moves until we get above there and people feel like it's all clear. May not be all clear. It could be completely a mistake, but people will feel like that. The technical traders will give it a shot. I illustrated the support to the downside here because if for some reason we break below that, you've got a lot of range to the downside that oil could fall. And if you happen to be someone that uses a lot of gas and you want prices to go lower, that'd be great. If you happen to be someone that has oil or energy in your investments, maybe you don't want that. Maybe you'd actually like a little higher prices. Where's the bigger net return? Transport's a little bit lower here on the day, hitting the 10% mark. Again, they hit the 10% pullback area and found support. That's the biggest thing there. If you're looking through the sectors, it seems that everything wants to come back to give it that 10% drop that we just haven't been getting broadly. And so I just wanted to point that out. In there, you had the airlines. Let's do JB Hunt. That had a pretty poor day today, down 2%. American Airlines, did that? Yeah, I got it. American Airlines finally broke through the low there. Notice the volume, notice the excitement. If you're a technical trader, you have to be able to spot that stuff. When we break through known support areas, look at how aggressive the downside gets. We've been mentioning this for days now. That's people throwing in the towel. So I always like to point out ahead of time when you think people will throw in the towel or decide to get really excited about something, you got to be able to spot that because this starts a whole new phase for American Airlines. And so something you may want to not participate in, but pay attention to. Delta was a little lower, and I think United fell a little bit. not really big deals there. American Airlines getting the brunt of it again because it broke that support area. No real news, nothing crazy to really report to say American Airlines deserves to get sold off. Just a little bit crazy there to the downside. Retail, unfortunately, battered today. Also breaking through this support area. And what do you have? You have increased volume, you have increased sellers because we're all saying, well, I guess as long as it's not as low as it's been in the past, I don't mind owning it. Well, as soon as it breaks that low, you go, well, crap. Now I own retail stocks at the lowest level that they've been in over a year and a half. Well, that's not cool. And a lot of people make that decision, just go ahead and get out of there. In the retail area, unfortunately, because of Trump's tweets, you have the trade-sensitive names and then those weak names. You got Best Buy down again, 4.5%, taking a beating there. And then you have the weak names. Limited Brands starting to look like a little bit of waterfall. Lost 5% here today. Capri, there you go. Capri a little bit lower on the day as well. Macy's, the CEO came out and said, there is absolutely no way I can pass on these trade costs to customers. I just can't do it. And so because of that, in his earnings announcement and everything, that's not a pretty string of 2 days for Macy's there. So, ouch, right? All right, let's move on here. In the S&P 500, 27% of the S&P 500 is over the 50-day moving average. Just so you know, that's not a lot. That's not good, right? That's taken us back into May when we saw a lot of the S&P names pull back. So that's not good. Utilities and retail, God, I keep saying that. Utilities and REITs remain the best performers with the most amount of stocks above the 50-day moving average. You got 54% and 53% respectively. So REITs and utilities continue to be the go-to area there. On the downside, you've got energy. I think you could have guessed that. Energy has the least amount of stocks over the 50-day moving average. In fact, it's only 3%. Like 3%, that's it. And then financials have 15%. They're in second place there. All right. So I haven't brought that up in a while, but really not a pretty picture there in general. For new highs, new 52-week highs and lows, you've got 10 of them today. Guess who? Hey, can anybody guess? Like, you could probably guess who's in the list here. You have 52-week highs here. You've got the public storage, PSA, reversing course public storage, and there you go, and extra space storage hitting highs as well. We happen to own both of those in our REIT fund here. We're excited to see them make new highs. I just don't like when stocks go too far too fast. So for me, I don't like that. McCormick hit new highs as well. I got to admit I'm wrong on that one, right? So we talked about this yesterday. When a stock goes too far too fast and then sort of pokes to highs and finishes at lows, you don't want to be the one that chases that. And today there were people that chased that. Notice the volume a little bit lower compared to recently. So that's letting you know that everybody else was wrong as well. They saw it going higher and they're like, oh crap, I better get some of that. And so that's basically what you have in McCormick. So it doesn't work perfectly every time, but I still would not be the one to want to chase that on the way up. My personal opinion. 64 new 52-week lows here on the day. That's a new record. Mostly oil and gas companies and retail, right? Just unfortunately all of those in there. You had 5 tech names in the mix there, and I'll point out real quick, Juniper, really aggressive downside move here. If that continues, you could find yourself into one of those sort of waterfall drops, if that's something that you like to look at. So that's one of them there as well. But only 5 tech names in the space. So it lets you know that money's still trying to move into that tech space. Even though it's been slightly kind of an underperformer lately, people still want to participate in that. All right, a couple stocks in the news, and then we'll take your questions. Tapestry, worst performer in the S&P 500 by far. 22% to the downside there. Lower revenues. Horrible earnings announcement. And Kate Spade and Coach, the two brands, some of the 2 brands that they own, weak sales there. So people not willing to pay up for those supposedly rare bags anymore, because we all know they're not really rare. You guys are pumping them out there, right? It's kind of like, why should I pay so much for a Lexus? There's a billion of those things. Why don't I just get a Toyota, a Nissan, something like that, right? So they figured that out for Tapestry, so that was a little bit lower. General Electric, second biggest loser, down 11.3%. I'm going to stop on this one here for a second. Because what happened, the guy that figured out Bernie Madoff was a fraud and reported this to the regulators was back in the news today. And I really want you to think about this. Here's the story. He comes back into the news and he goes, oh, GE is a fraud. They're the biggest fraud since Enron. He didn't say Bernie Madoff. He didn't say Bernie Madoff's company because different company. So he wanted to use a public company. He says General Electric is the biggest fraud since Enron. He says they are going to file for bankruptcy. He says that they are hiding numbers on their books. He was very specific about this stuff, right? Okay, stock falls 11%. But why is he bringing this up? Why not just go to the regulators and say, hey, this is what's going on? Because he's smart. He learned from his last time. He said, well, I didn't really make any money. I got the whistleblower money from the SEC for figuring them out, but I didn't really make any money. How can I make money off of something that he believes is a fraud? Well, he got real smart here. He went to a hedge fund and he said, well, they worked it out. They said, basically, let's short a bunch of General Electric ahead of time. Then I will take my findings and I will go all over TV and I will say that this company is a fraud. And so then the stock should fall. If the stock falls, we'll take our profits and this whole thing will make sense. That guy makes a ton of money. In addition to, if they are a fraud, he gets whistleblower money as well. But now he makes a whole bunch more money. Ask yourself, is that legal? Is that allowed to do that? Can a guy like that just do that and sort of manipulate a stock price? Absolutely. There's nothing wrong with it, right? Whether you agree with it or not, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it, and it happens all the time. Not that people call another company a fraud. You can look back to Muddy Waters. He had some fun with Tesla. You can look at Carl Icahn, the way he pushes companies around. It's totally legal to do that, and it works. This guy just figured out how to do it. And to add to his brilliance, not saying I agree with it, but to add to his brilliance, why didn't he bring this out yesterday? Did he just finish his calculations today? Did he not have them yesterday? Has he not had them over the last couple weeks? Like all of a sudden today he does it? Brilliant. Because why? We have nothing else to focus on today. The markets are chopping around. He's like, let's do it today, right? If he did it yesterday, it would have been washed away. We would have talked about it today and tomorrow and everything, but it wouldn't have had the same impact. So totally, totally brilliant for him to do this. Again, whether you agree with it or not is, that's your thing there. I don't know that GE is a fraud. I certainly haven't studied it as much as he has. GE's come out and basically said, yeah, that unfortunately that's completely wrong. So what happened with GE basically is they just said, hey, if you have some bad findings with us, why don't you just come and look at our books? Why didn't you tell us ahead of time that you were going to release this so we could at least vet the things that you were going to say and have a better approach? That's what normally happens, right? So when a company or a reporter is going to say something nasty about a company, they usually go tell the company first, hey, I found this out. I'm going to share it with you. They do that. That's actually how it works. He did not do that. So I hope he's up for a little bit of a challenge there because I have a feeling some people are going to want to challenge him there. Anyways, I just want to point that out. What else do we have for you? Just a couple more things, and then we'll take your questions if you have any. Canopy Growth, that's a pot stock. That hit new lows today, down 15%. Guys, this is just an overpriced company. Been just telling you left and right. I get it. Cannabis is exciting. It's just overpriced, and that's great that these things are falling. Tilray also fell the other day. Canopy basically fell on earnings. Same concept. Their revenues are higher, but overall earnings they just can't make it happen yet. Maybe one day they will. Alibaba reported earnings as well. If you like the Chinese stocks, 3% higher on the day. That follows through with JD.com and 58.com, which reported, I didn't see it actually. Did they report? I'm not sure that they've actually reported yet. They were on my list, but I don't see any activity there. But Alibaba basically was higher on earnings in the cloud space. They're doing well in the cloud space over there, so that helped their bottom line as well. Added 3% on the day. Can't complain about that too much if you're one of them. Yep. As far as earnings, we got Chevron coming out here. Not earnings, dividend, right? Dividend payment there on Chevron coming out. Jack in the Box coming out. Who else? There's a lot of names here. UPS coming out and Yum Brands. Those would be names that we own in our portfolios there. So exciting to see that as well. What else? Earnings tomorrow, really nothing. John Deere is going to report earnings if you're interested in that. But yeah, that's all I got for you. I have officially covered it all. Let's see if you have any questions and help you out. Well, regulators don't do their job all the time. People would complain about Madoff and nothing was done. I'm not going there. Many of you know we are SEC registered. And we chose to do that so that it would obviously make us, stand on a bigger stage and everything. And that was a pain, right, to do that. because usually smaller companies don't do that. We said, well, within our rules, back page rule in the SEC guidelines there, that we were able to do it. And the SEC said, okay, fine, it's been a little while. We want to do a complete audit. We want to see what's going on with old Jazz Wealth. And I can say the regulators, in particular, 2 of them, did an amazing job. And I'm not just saying that, right? I'm saying that because they really did. I mean, it's incredible what they find and what they can question. You think, like, how are they going to be able to go through all this? They did. They did really well. Now, as far as GE, I don't know. I can't say what's going on there. I'm just reading the news to you. How does oversold? Oh, look at you going for the oversold names there. All right. So you got Franklin Resources. I call it Ben Franklin. It's Franklin Templeton. They have offices here and everything. Just a habit of saying Ben Franklin. You ever develop like these little nicknames for companies? Like we would just say CLAC instead of KLA Tencor, or Xilinx, which is actually how you say it. AMAT, things like that. You just call them out. Anyways, Ben Franklin. So yeah, definitely oversold here in the short term. The problem is there's no reason to believe you found a bottom, right? Do you have anything to go on? Do you have any kind of washout? Do you have any sort of relative strength? Do you have any kind of support in there that you can see other traders are trying to buy? I don't see any, so I think it's a tough one there to try it. I know you're not short-term kind of a trader, but I think it's a tough one still in this spot here for now. Richard says, you said some days ago that if you deposit money in your account, you'll immediately put it to work. Does it also apply during a bear market? How does it work if it's a bear market? Doesn't matter. I think the question is, if you put money into your accounts that you have here, will we use discretion to when we put it to work? No. All of our adjustments come from a fund level. So those portfolios you see on the website, you'll see that there are times we carry more cash and there are times that we don't. Very minimal, by the way. Those are where all the adjustments come. We actually look forward to market declines, right? We want to buy a little bit cheaper there. But yeah, we don't mess around. You make a deposit, we don't like it to sit there. It's not fair to you, right? Why would you just leave cash there that's not earning you money, but you're paying us? I don't like that, right? So even if you want to invest it more conservatively and go for more yield or bond-oriented, that makes me feel better, right? At least it's doing something for you. My mind is saying, if you have dollars that can work for you, let's put them to work, all right? Let's get it done. Based on what you just said, we should reinvest after it drops 70-30, the buying setup. I don't recall saying anything like that. Maybe you're talking to somebody else. What do you think about FedEx and the Amazon beef? Well, Amazon is very clear about wanting to get into that space. In fact, if you come to the Tampa airport, they now have, I believe, 18 planes right here, because they have a big, huge facility in Lakeland. They have no issue of trying to hide what they're trying to do. They're going to be their own transportation service. I don't know how they're going to, they hope the economy stays well. That's a lot of money to spend on there. Yeah, I mean, that's a natural progression, man. Amazon just getting so big, they want to take care of it themselves. They still got to solve a couple things there. Maybe we could do a video on that. Is the trade desk really building an exchange for advertisers similar to stock exchanges? There's already things like that. I'm not sure of the legality of that. There was something they used to call Second Market, and I believe the NASDAQ bought it because they felt they could do better. But that already exists. If they're building that, can you? You can, absolutely. How they get around some of the rules is way beyond anything I would know. So I couldn't exactly answer that. What advice can you give for a 30-year-old opening a Roth IRA as far as what to invest in inside that IRA? Well, you got to decide if it's something that you're comfortable being aggressive. You're 30 years old, you can afford to be aggressive. You've got to decide if that works for you, if you're comfortable with it, seeing more volatility and things like that. If so, I mean, I'm 37 and I'm comfortable with anything the market wants to dish at me, and I sort of hope that they want to dish out, some downside. But you got to make that decision, right? Invest for the goal, your particular goal. I don't like when people go read a book and they're like, I'm going to pick these 3 or 4 things because that's what I read. Get what you need. Be selfish, right? Get your returns that you actually need there. Do you think the pullback or correction is over for now and there's more to come ahead? Seems like there's a little bit more to come ahead. I keep focusing on that 10% number at least as a minimum here. So that's me. You think Beyond Meats is headed lower? Sure looks like it. They had a rough day today, right? It's a pretty rough day, and I don't know that that's still where it should be valued at. It probably should be valued a little bit lower, but I don't set the prices in the market. People do what they're going to do. Alexander, thank you for what you're doing. It's very helpful. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you watching. If you had to name a few good old off-the-shelf softwares that an individual can use to study historical data and find stats like you do, what would be your top three? Off the shelf. It's not off the shelf. Who used to do a good job was TradeStation. I don't know if they're still around. It's a brokerage firm where you do active trading and stuff. You used to be able to really go in there and program your own stuff in a way that most of us can actually understand how to program stuff. So maybe them. There was another one. You'll find that when you look at that one, you'll see their competitor. But other than that, I use FinViz every now and then. That's a good one. It's an easy one. I believe most of it is free. But that would probably be maybe FinViz would be my first suggestion. Yeah, check it out. What's some good investing personal finance advice for a college student who's already saving aggressively with carefully selected ETFs? What's some good personal finance? You're a college student. You're not supposed to really be like conquering the financial world right now. Do your stuff, man. Get your grades. Go into your field and do your thing there. As a college kid, the fact that you're hopefully not taking on too much debt, if any at all, that's the biggest success you can have right there. This student loans, man. That's an issue there. We're all looking over here, but everybody should. What's going on with these student loans? Why is that something that we have to have? I don't get it. That's a tough one. Interest rates moving up or down, slow down earnings, rising inflation. Interest rates are very likely moving even lower. You got Jackson Hole next week, where we'll probably find out more confirmation from the Fed that they're going to cut rates into the next earnings announcement rate announcement in September. Right now, investors are actually planning. They think that there is 100% chance of a rate cut in September, a 75% chance in December. So that gives you an idea of what people are actually making bets on versus what I think is going to happen. Yep. Andres, Warren Buffett buying Amazon shares. Yeah, but he was clear to say that that's not actually him. That was one of his traders in there. Yeah. He's letting some other people take the reins there, and they're got a little different personality, it seems, yeah, because these guys diving into Amazon. He still agrees that it's overvalued. But he's letting his traders do his thing. Yeah. Yep. Could you explain the backdoor Roth conversion? Yep, we've actually done numerous videos on that. We'd probably do 100 to 200 of those a year, so it's something I'm very familiar with. Could I explain it now? Now's probably not the best time, but maybe we'll squeeze in another video to cover those. I've done a couple in the past. To do that. And we've done stuff for customers as well, so if you're wondering, it should be in the dojo as well. Yep. All right, I think I better wrap it up there. That's pretty good. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. If you're one of our customers, remember we got the class later. I'm going to go get ready for that now, and we'll see you at 8 o'clock. Grab a glass of wine, your favorite evening drink. Come hang out with me for a little bit. In the time it takes you to enjoy that drink, I always say maybe you'll learn something new. I'll share stuff with you in the nest egg, and we'll dive in and make it happen for you. So enjoy. And if you're not one of our customers, we'll see you tomorrow. We'll be back here to do this all over again. Enjoy.
Hey, wait! Before you go watch one of our other great videos, have you had a chance to see our new FinTips videos? They focus on one topic at a time, covering investing, personal finance, and anything that can quickly help you with your dough. Best of all, we'll keep it real short, because we know time is money.
Why should you choose Jazz Wealth as your retirement or long-term investing service? Our portfolios are managed by us, not some faceless mutual fund manager. Our private classes will teach you everything about investing and getting your dough straight. Best of all, our fiduciary standard means your best interest comes before ours.